Hey, this is Jay, the Deliv driver, back with another video. So you're interested in how much Deliv drivers get paid. Well, in this video, we're going to review the 3 metrics that Deliv uses to pay their drivers. Now the website indicates that you can make $22 an hour, and sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. You have to think of it as more of an average, not necessarily a hard figure. So what are the 3 metrics that are used to calculate your pay? One is time on task, the second is mileage, and the third is tips. So let's go over the first. The first one is time on task, okay? Now, basically, when you work for Deliv, you have to commit or schedule yourself for a certain number of hours, and they're called committed blocks, right? You commit to certain block hours. So let's just say, for the sake of this argument, I have committed 4 hours, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Let's just say, okay? Now, every district, every different cities and different regions within the cities have different block rate hours or committed block hour rates. Okay, so in Brooklyn, my rate is $11 per committed block hour, per hour on task, okay? And my committed block rate for today is from 4 to 8 p.m. But let's just say that I become available at 4, right? I turn my app on at 4, but my first job doesn't come in till 4:30, let's just say, okay? And so during the course of my shift, I'm making deliveries. I started at 4:30 and I consistently am making deliveries throughout my shift. But my last delivery doesn't exactly come at 8 o'clock. It comes at 7:30 p.m., half hour before I'm scheduled to end my shift. And there aren't any more deliveries after 7:30, and at 8 o'clock my shift is over, right? So technically I was only delivering from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So while I have committed to a 4-hour block, I'm only getting paid for 3 hours, right? So that would be that's $33 for those 4 hours of work. Okay, so that's just that's the first metric that's used. So the second metric is mileage, and it's a pretty simple formula. It's basically the distance between your pickup point and the customer at 50 cents a mile. So for example, if you pick up your item and the customer is 6 miles away, that's a $3 mileage rate that you would get. So the distance that you're driving from your pickup point to the customer or to multiple customers is how your mileage gets billed at 50 cents a mile. You don't make any miles after you've delivered your last customer. And the third and final metric for getting paid with Deliv is tipping. And this is kind of a tricky thing because generally and traditionally with any kind of service job, tips are something that tips are generally not taxed, okay? And we'll talk about taxes in a future video, but tips are something that the customer can do in the app. They can choose to tip you in the app, or they can choose to pay you cash in hand when you make the delivery. Okay, so when you receive your payment, you'll see 3 categories. You'll see your time on task, you'll see your mileage, and you also see your tips. The problem with that is that the tips come all lumped into your payment, and when it comes time to pay taxes, the tip is included in your overall income. Okay, so sometimes customers will choose to tip you, sometimes they won't. Okay, and there have been times where I've made a delivery and the customer will hand me cash in my hand, which is always appreciated because then you don't have to pay, or it doesn't show up in the payment. You get it right in hand, and of course you don't have to claim it. So those are 3 basic metrics for how Deliv provides payment to its drivers.